There is a loneliness epidemic in the United States. According to a poll from the American Psychiatric Association, 30% of adults indicated in early 2024 that they have experienced loneliness at least once a week over the past year. In addition, mental health problems account for 14% of the global burden of disease, often going untreated. An article in Rolling Stone magazine argues that salon professionals are uniquely poised to facilitate healing and emotional support with their clients. Are hairdressers also therapists in disguise? Should a haircut be more than just a haircut? Today's guest, Blake Clingman, is an artistic director at Salon Kroma of Cary in North Carolina, and she and I are going to explore the topic of healing and hair. This is E3. Engage and empower with empathy. Welcome to the podcast today, Blake.
Hi.
I am so excited to have you here. I was just in here a couple of days ago. You brought my curls back. You took some hair off my neck, so the summer heat is no longer getting to me anymore. I was super excited for this conversation because just the other week, you were telling me how cutting hair is so much more than just cutting hair. And, women come in to get a new color, get a new shape, whatever it might be. It boosts our confidence. It makes us feel better. But I can just say every time I walk out of this salon with you, Blake, it's more than just the hair that makes me happy. It's that conversation that you and I have while I'm sitting in the chair. So just tell me a little bit more about that. What does a typical day in the salon look like?
Yeah, absolutely. A typical day kind of starts for me with making myself and my space presentable as a professional space and also a safe, comfortable space. That's important for all of us here, that we provide clean space that's comfortable and relaxed, because that's part of the experience, is relaxation, right? From there, we begin talking about hair, what you're looking for, what we're going to do. Part of what most of us hairdressers didn't know coming in is there's a lot of math and science in our day with color chemistry, and we're working with all kinds of chemicals there. We have geometry for head shapes, angles, working with different dimensions of hair. So that's not something most of us thought going into we would be doing, but now we're doing math and science during the day as well while we're cutting hair. We have to present ourselves to our clients. If I'm having a tired day or a hard day, when I come in here, I need to kind of do the best I can to push that to the side and be on and receptive for my clients and to focus on my actual job of the hair, let alone getting into the intimate time. Like you just mentioned, we covered so many topics of conversation, and that's just you and me, in 1 hour together. I have 2 to 8 clients a day, depending on services. Some appointments can be 4+ hours. So I have a lot of conversation in a week, and, the conversations are all over the map. Just a big roller coaster. The types of people, the age of people, genders, socioeconomic backgrounds are different. So everybody I see is from kind of different walks of life. So got to be prepared. And once you get to know clients, you kind of know what you're going to expect out of that. But it's a pretty heavy emotional day. And all the meantime, we're doing the math and science and chemistry and making sure your haircuts are, exactly what they should be for you and your lifestyle. And then we come in and we're therapists and we're friends. This is a mutual relationship we have with people. Some days I'm really excited to see certain people because I know their energy is just going to bring me out of a slump maybe. Or, some days I know there's people, they're going through something kind of hard and I'm not quite ready to see them again to check up on that because it might not be good news. It's kind of you dread that appointment time. You also just never know what's coming in the day as far as that goes. Or as hair. We'll spend the first 5 to 15 minutes discussing what the appointment is going to be as far as hair goes. And then the rest of it, we are talking socially. And all the meantime, I have to keep doing my job in the back of my head, remembering what we talked about that first 5 minutes of our appointment time together. A lot goes into it, like every job, the things you don't know behind the scenes. make it unique to that position. And this is definitely one of those jobs I think people don't quite know what's on behind the curtain. And it's a lot. It's a lot for the stylists. It's a lot for the employers. And we're all human beings too. So we make mistakes. We say the wrong things. We do the wrong things to the hair. You know, we have the wrong reaction to somebody telling you something. And those are all things that we just have to move on and learn from and try to be better from, like anything else in life. And I'm also a mentor. We have an apprentice in here now. She's been with us for almost 2 years. I want to present myself to her in a very professional. I want her to see how I interact with my clients, which makes me think of how to do it better so she's getting a better impression, right? I think we learn as we teach others, right? I grew up in this career under two very empathetic business owners. They co-own the salon, wonderful women. As we've had apprentices over the years come in, specifically when I've worked directly more one-on-one with them, I try to remember where I came from, where they're at in their career, and where I kind of would have been maybe in that point. But also be empathetic to that, to her mental health, to what's going on in her personal life, to where she's at as far as her advancement and skill. All those things I want to keep in mind to help her be better. So that's going on all day as well when she and I are working in here together, which I love. Like it helps me to be better, like I mentioned before, just because I want to look and act the part that I think it's important to present. So she sees that in me as an example. And she and I are very, very open and honest with each other about everything. We ask each other questions, but we both know how to approach it with constructive criticism attitude versus you messed up or why did you do this? And she and I can communicate with all three of us, actually. Sandy, our coworker, is just in the other room, so she's not in here with us, but I worked for her for almost 18 years now. It's been 17 wow. plus years. And I started my career as her apprentice. I know once I took a course for continuing education and the class was told, it's always the master's goal should be to teach and help grow and maybe let them, and hopefully they outgrow you. I really thought about that. And that is the part about being proud of someone outgrowing you, I think is often overlooked. Because that's a big deal. For me, I look at our apprentice getting better. I see her implementing things and saying things that we've discussed. And I can tell she's just on a fast track to getting at a much further place in her career than maybe I felt like I did at that point. But also in turn, my boss tells me kind of the same things. You know, she's like, you're one of the few that it really worked, our apprentice program, and you grew and blossomed, and now I'm doing it for someone else. So kind of seeing that chain, and you hope to pass that down in generations of stylists. Because there is a stigma in salons too about drama, and that's very real. What you see in our industry now, salons are more so breaking out of these large spaces with 10 to 12 stylists. People are breaking off into more of a suite situation like this, where you might have 2 to 3 people max in a space. I think that for us has allowed a more intimate space for us as coworkers and a more intimate space with our clients. There's not as much background noise, you know, behind the scenes drama, all that. There's not as much of that. So that's really helped me personally, going from a 1,600 square foot space full of stylists and a reception desk and the phones ringing all day and music and TVs, to coming into this kind of a space where it's often just me and my client, or maybe one other person in here. I am able to focus more on what I am doing and what my client is also saying to me without all that going on in the background, or without having to be irritated at the person next to me because they microwave their fish, you know, like it's just, yes, like those are things I think I've noticed as my career over the last 18 years has evolved. We all go through it in life, relationships, jobs, that we can look back at things and realize where we've really grown from. Hopefully in a good way, right? We all kind of want to feel more accomplished, I think, and to try to learn from those mistakes instead of just harping and harnessing onto them. They happened, they're done. So let's help ourselves and the next generation learn from it. So that's what we try to incorporate here. And also, like I said, for our clients too, we just want comfortable environment, relaxed. And it is more friendship talking. We have intimate relationships with our clients. I've known you since before you were married and had children, and now you have 2 of them.
Yes.
I've known you living over several states through your life. Like there's history.
Yes. And I just think it's a testament to you as a human being, Blake, that I would circle around to multiple states, cycle through multiple hairdressers, and then as soon as I move back to North Carolina, I call you immediately.
And I was so excited to see you show back up. I remember, because you got married during that time.
Well, yeah, my last name
so
was
your name was on the computer. I had no idea who you were, but as soon as you walked in the door, I knew it was Rebecca Galloway. I have lots of wonderful relationships with clients that stand the test of time, and it's mutual. I don't want it to be one-sided. I want to be able to enjoy my time with my clients as well as they enjoy it with me.
Yeah, and I love that. And I didn't introduce this at the beginning, but we're sitting in the salon. I mean, this is a special episode today. This is the chair that I sat in 2 days ago to get my hair cut. As Blake said, it's a really small space. It almost feels like you're sitting inside someone's home. So it's not like those big salons, like Blake said, where there are like 25 chairs and everyone's lined up. And I think the beautiful thing about this environment is you do feel safe to share intimate conversations and have intimate conversations with your hairdresser. Whereas if you're sitting in one of those large salons, everyone's overhearing your dialogue and trying to, I don't know, participate sometimes.
Yes.
It almost becomes...
Well, and you get distracted.
Yeah.
You hear a dialogue or a phone ring, even as a client.
Well, I feel like whenever I've been in big salons like that, the conversations probably purposefully stay a little bit more surface level and almost like gossip like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, hey, did you hear what so-and-so did? I mean, it's not, we're not having intimate conversations about like, why do we exist? And, so I think this environment is set up to help your clients really feel safe and appreciated in this one-on-one context. So it's really
I mean, we love this. What you guys can't see is we're on a quiet cul-de-sac off of a main road. There's not even a lot of traffic outside my window. It just looks like a neighborhood parking lot. And everything from that down to, like she mentioned, just a homey, comfortable feel in the space. It's just calm. It's quiet. When we were in the commercial front, traffic walking by the windows, cars driving by, music thumping. We really enjoyed what's happened to our business moving into more of a space like this. Yeah. It's really evolved.
It's interesting. And I think to kind of follow on to the next question I had for you, and I'm thinking back to the conversation we had a couple of days ago where you were talking about going through hair school and your New Yorker teacher had like a cigarette hanging out of her mouth and telling you guys, hey, I only had 2 choices when I was your age. I could become a teacher or a hairdresser, and voila, here I am. So I was just thinking about how much the profession has evolved since then, since you were in school and you were hearing this older woman with the cigarette butt hanging out of her mouth, talking about her choices in life. And the purpose of this conversation today is to really talk about how being a hairdresser is so much more than cutting hair. And there really is this intersection with mental health. And I want to get this right, so I'm going to get out my notes, but there was actually a recent New York Times article that covered the Heal by Hair movement. And this was actually a movement that started in West Africa, where there is way more demand for mental health care than there is supply. And Heal by Hair is the first mental health movement in Africa that trains hairdressers to become mental health counselors. That's incredible to me. Like, what an innovative way to take advantage of a health crisis when you already have this trusting, established relationship with your hairdresser. Why not train them to be a mental health counselor? So I guess my question to you is, as you and I have joked before, your salon is right next to the offices of some therapists.
Yes, several.
You actually joked to me one day. You said we should eat lunch together or go to happy hour after work and compare notes because our jobs are probably very similar. Why is that?
I think there's been studies showing, and we're going to get into some of that and some statistics. First of all, people feel more comfortable speaking to their hairdressers than to a therapist sometimes, because of what you mentioned. There is a relationship established and a level of trust. And then when we're doing hair, we are not sitting like this across the room while someone has a notepad or a tape recorder out. There's not a lot of forced eye contact.
Yeah.
At some points, I might have to turn your chair to reach an angle, and you won't even be able to see me in the mirror. And speaking while not looking directly at somebody tends to be more natural. You know, people kind of let things come out a little bit more. And we're having conversation that didn't just start with, tell me what's wrong with you. You know, it just evolved into, how's your week been? How's your month been? And then that all stems into people starting to open up. You mentioned specifically Heal by Hair, and that is in Africa, where they do have, I think as I started looking through some of my research on this, I think their ratio of therapists to a civilian is 2 to 200,000 or something. I mean, it's an unfathomable number for people, even if they could afford it, to be able to have access to. In Africa, during the AIDS epidemic, in the 80s, they started training their hairdressers on AIDS education because they were realizing the hairdressers are kind of an intricate part of the community. Everybody gets a haircut, every walk of life, like what we mentioned before, socioeconomics, race, gender, everybody needs their hair done. I think that this hair, what I'm going to call it Hairapy, that's in our industry, something that is kind of thrown around. I think they're realizing similarly, like, people talk to us intimately and openly. The hope for these programs is for us to recognize maybe some symptoms of depression or anxieties or grief or suicide, and more so not to heal them. We're not therapists. None of these programs claim to make you a therapist, but it's more to just be aware, be able to have some resources in your community that you can offer them or encourage them to maybe seek some help talking to somebody. There's several programs, not just this one in Africa, that have started. There's some specifically for barbers because the Black male community has kind of a different mental health situation going on than, say, an Asian female community or a white female community. All the communities have different statistics of mental health.
Sure.
So if you're in a salon that's really specifically zoned in on your community area, they're trying to help you recognize things that people in that area commonly struggle with. A lot of these programs have different options that you can kind of choose from. Like I said, there's one that's really for barbers, because they deal with men all day. And there's some that are, like you said, in Africa. We have several here. There's one in London that focuses in on suicide prevention with hairstylists. These aren't in the masses yet, these trends and these programs, but they are definitely growing. We're seeing a lot more of them popping up where we as stylists can go and take these educational courses that could be an intense few days, or it could be, over the course of a few weeks. It's more to help learn active listening. Just learn how to listen. People sometimes just want to say stuff. Like they don't even need you to respond or fix it. They just want to say it. And also kind of maybe removing the stigma that might come along with embarrassment of emotions or fear of emotions, or that someone's emotions are very normal and it's okay to have those emotions. I think that's a big part, normalizing, because we all have hard days. We all have hard months. I think that's what these programs, I hope that they really can take off, and I hope more of them can become available in order for stylists to make a little bit more of an impact than we already do. And I think we do so much that we don't even realize. Because like I said before, we're human, right? So I go home and I'm just me. I come to work every day. It's just me. But then we realize, people talk about us at their dinner table. People will remember something and ask me about it next time I see them, and I've forgotten I'd even ever mentioned that to them, kind of thing. We're important to people, and our clients are, intricate part of our job, and not just their hair, but just as the whole person. So I'm really excited about all these programs. You had a guest who early on, a mental health specialist, who was talking about sitting in the suck.
Oh, yes.
And going back to active listening, sometimes people just want you to sit in the suck with them. I've had clients come in before and just, they tell me they're having a hard day. They probably don't really want to talk a lot. That's so okay. Nobody should ever feel like they can't ask for that. And as they sit there, you can see they're processing emotion. Sometimes tears might start, coming down. Just for them to feel comfortable enough to ask for quiet time and cry with somebody is a big deal. To just sit and suck with me, But then also on the other side of that, we get to sit in the joy with people, in the excitement. They might come running in with news that they just are busting at the seams to share. That also might be tear inducing, the excitements of the lives. It's not just the hard times. Sometimes it's just the mundane, just the daily. And that's fine too. It's all just normalizing it and making people feel like it's okay to have these emotions.
Can you give me some examples of those joyous moments or those sad moments that you've shared with clients?
Yes, I can. I wrote here a couple names of people who, by the way, I did get permission to discuss their stories. Because going back to, this is a safe space that they've told me these stories in. And it's not something I would put on the internet without their permission. When you approached me 5 or 6 weeks ago about doing this, a lot of things kind of ironically that fit in this category of what we were discussing the podcast to be about happened to me. And I was sharing examples with you as my week went on. I was like, you are just not going to believe one more crazy emotional roller coaster this week. I have a client who just came in recently. She is going through breast cancer, and we needed to shave her hair because it was starting to come out from her chemo. Her husband came with her, which I know him very well. I've been cutting their hair together for a couple of years. I knew she had cancer. She told me they come together. So they both told me at one appointment that she had been diagnosed, and then they were going to be going in to find out what the treatment plans were and things like that moving forward. And then a few weeks after that, I received a text from her, and she just said, it's time to shave my head. If there's something we can get on the schedule for that. We did. She came in. I keep the door shut on purpose. I usually like to leave it open, but I purposely shut it because I knew that this can be emotional. I've done this before. And they can be all over the place. The cancer shaving of hair, it can be something emotionally sad. It can be something emotionally exciting. It can create jokes and laughter. It can create gut-wrenching tears. I purposely start slow and in the back, and I move my ways around, asking, some people don't want to sit facing the mirror and watch. So, I ask. And I usually like to try to talk about it before we start. Like, how are you feeling about this today? And as ready as somebody might feel they are, some people aren't. And they know they aren't. And some people think they are, but it's still a shock to see yourself like that, as you're shaving your hair off, when it's an important part of us. She and her husband and I sat in here and we cried together. We held hands together. We were all hugging. We were laughing. I mean, it was an hour of all over the place emotion. Open the door as they leave, and my next appointment is sitting out there waiting for me. And I also needed to clean up. When I clean up, I like to check salon messages real quick in between clients to make sure there's nothing pressing. I received a message while I was working with my breast cancer client of a picture of one of my clients getting engaged. As I was, trying to clean up for my next client who's waiting for me, my client and her fiance and her ring, and she said, we just got engaged and nobody really knows yet. It just happened. So please don't say anything. I'm so excited for her while I'm over here, blotting my face about my other clients' experience. And then I have to stop with both of them, move on, and welcome my next guest in. I have a couple I work with. They're in their 80s. And she comes in weekly. Her husband brings her in. And she struggles quite a bit with some orthopedic and arthritic issues. And every time she comes in, she kind of has her head down and she's fine, but, just a little. And she always says, and her husband now always says, we're just happy to see Dr. Blake, because he knows she's in a much better mood every time he comes and picks her up. She knows she's in a better mood when we're done. And, again, we've made her look better. So, of course, you feel better. But also, we had good social conversation. And we didn't have to focus on the things that were bothering her, that morning or prior to the appointment, that the pain she's experiencing. So, they call me Dr. Blake. And funny enough, he's a retired doctor. So recently I also had a client reach out to me to get her hair cut pretty drastically, as she's been trying to grow it out for the last year. From a shortcut as yourself, she's been now trying to grow it out. And she recently texted me that she was too hot and just was ready to cut it off. When could I get her in ASAP? I text her some appointments. We book it. I don't think much of it. Well, the next day she reaches out to me. And this young woman is in her early 20s. So I was proud of her for this at that age, her self-awareness. She reached out to me to cancel the appointment because she was realizing with her grandmother in hospice, watching what her own mother was going through with that, helping with hospice care, watching her aunts go through all of this, coming off of the death of her own father this year as well. She said, I think I need to wait and see if I should cut my hair short. She said, I'm going to reach out to you in a month or so. And if I still want to cut it off, we will. But if not, I'll just book for my normal, trim. And I told her how proud I was of her for realizing that that was an emotional response for her, was to gain control of something.
Yeah.
Or need an instant change, an instant gratification. A dopamine hit during hard times. And that's real too, that people come in here to do that. I tend to ask clients, if they come in and all of a sudden want a very dramatic change, how long have we been thinking about this? If I know they're going through a breakup or a divorce or the loss of a parent or a spouse or a child, I kind of try to feel out if this is an emotional response. And sometimes an emotional response through your hair is so good. And sometimes the next day it is not, So it's just something we as stylists should also kind of feel out the situation of what stemmed this. change. And sometimes people do just want to change, and that's great. Our hair is the most manipulable thing on our bodies, right? So it can connect to our daily emotions and a sense of confidence. If we feel like we're having crummy hair days, then we kind of can dwell on that through the day. And then all of a sudden my outfit doesn't look good either. And I get to work and now my makeup's smeared, or, and all these things, they affect you, your mood. If you're feeling really good about your image, including your hair especially, you tend to present a little more confidence. That's so important for the client to know as well. Because like I said, then maybe helpfully analyzing an emotional response of a hair change. Just being able to be aware of, is this something that I really want to do? Or is this something that I think might be triggered by something else, and I want control of something? We're all guilty of it. Other things, I hear IVF finally worked, bought the house of my dreams. We're moving, whether that's a great thing or a not so great thing. There's lots of conversations come in here, and people die, clients pass, their family passes, and that grief's hard. Grief comes through a lot in here. We had a mother-daughter client. I've worked with that mother for well over a decade, and her grown-up daughter was also a client of ours. Not mine, but here at the salon. We were there through her wedding, through the birth of her son, and shortly thereafter, she unexpectedly passed away. And that was hard on many levels for me, because not only did I know her, but I watched her mother suffer at the funeral. I watched her suffer in here. And she and I have cried a lot together. We've been through a lot together over that. And it brought us very close together. And, that's something that she and I cherish, that once in a while comes up, that how important it is to us that we shared the level of intimacy we did through that. Because I can't imagine the loss of a child. I don't have children, but I can't imagine it. And seeing that pain in her was just really difficult. She and I have this relationship now where we support each other. We tell each other things all the time, good and bad. I appreciate so many of my clients in my life that I never would have otherwise crossed paths with if I wasn't a hairdresser. When you're sitting in here for an hour to 4 hours, you really get to know each other. I mean, you're just talking the whole time. Imagine just talking to someone on the phone that long. That's essentially what we're doing.
No one does that anymore.
Right. Correct. We want minimal texts. I've gone through people through divorces, affairs, the loss of a spouse. We work with mixed families in here. We have clients who were once together and now they're not, and now they're new spouses, and they all come in, and you really have to be careful to balance the circles, because we're in a small community. You just have to have the self-awareness of, he is my client, she is my client. I don't, want to cross that boundary of trust that I have with either one of them. That's important as well to kind of keep in mind as we're trying to maintain trust through our clients. It gets pretty hectic in here. Sometimes it's just me and one person. Sometimes there might be 4 or 5 of us in here. Someone in sitting under the dryer, someone getting a treatment at the shampoo bowl, someone's at the computer, and it's our own little steel magnolias. The gossip is just going, and we are having all the laughs. We have the ability to tailor and cater to what our appointment kind of needs. It was important for me when the first time that mother I was talking to you about, whose daughter passed away, it's very important for me to have her first appointment back be no one else here, because I had no idea what that appointment was going to look like, and I didn't know what she was going to need it to be. These are things people don't know that we do. We care and we connect with our clients, especially when you've been in the industry so long. The longer you're in it, the more you develop a deeper relationship and watch people grow and watch people fall and hopefully help people get back up and grow again.
This has been a wonderful, inspiring conversation. Thank you for being so brave to come and be on this episode today.
Well, I was very excited to come, just also very nervous, but I'm happy to share this, and I've been really excited with what you've been doing with your other episodes of your podcast. I've applied, most of those people have been discussing corporate environments. I'm not in a corporate environment. We're a very small business of 3 people. And I have applied things that your other guests have said into my own practices in a small environment. I applaud what you're doing. I think it's great. And I hope it spreads, and I hope it impacts people in a way that it has impacted me and some of your other guests and listeners.
Well, thank you, Blake.
Thank
I
you.
really hope we can all reach out across industries and talk to each other more.
I was very excited. I hope so too.
Let's do it. Hairstylists and corporate business leaders should all be in the same.
We should all.
This podcast is designed to help busy business leaders create an inspired and engaged workforce. I am building a community of like-minded leaders and experts who all share the same passion: taking care of people at work. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. If you know someone who I should interview or should be a part of this community, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.